Hello and welcome. My name's Sherry. I live in the southwest of the UK in Devon, and this is a podcast about knitting, crochet, sewing, embroidery and other crafty bits. So welcome, thank you for coming to spend some time with me. Thank you very much if you're coming back again. And thank you to everybody who has subscribed as well, which is amazing. Didn't expect that at all, so thank you. You can find me, or I put all the links in the down bar below, but you can find me on Instagram. I'm Sherry_Iris. I have an Etsy store, Sherry Iris Design, and I have a blog, sherryiris.com. So thank you. I wanted to start with some knitting that I'm doing. I haven't done a huge amount of knitting this month. I've had a bit of a difficult time at the moment. We had a bit of a family bereavement, so I haven't done a whole lot of knitting because I've not really had my crafty mojo. Is that a thing? But I have done some socks. I've been doing these for a while now. And these are actually for my youngest son. But when I say youngest son, he's bigger than me and bearded. So these are actually my first pair of socks, man-size pair of socks. So this is actually knit from some of my yarn. It's not for sale, it's just one that I did that I wasn't actually quite happy with some of the colourway going through it, although now I've knitted it up I really quite like it. So this is the Hermione Everyday Hermione socks. I'm rubbish at this. And I cast on 72 stitches for this, 2x2 rib, and I love this pattern. My son actually chose this because he said he thought it looked quite Scandi. Actually quite pleased with the way that's knitting up. Just doing the heel, slip stitch heel, and then I'll soon be on to turning the heel, but I haven't been spending a whole lot of time on these lately, but I will do. Show you my little pin. Sock knitting. That's from Untitled. I'm into this whole knitting pins thing now. I didn't get it for a while. I thought, what's that all about? I get it now. Second thing I wanted to show you is my Love Entwined cowl, which again haven't spent a whole lot of time on recently because I haven't had the time, but what I have done I absolutely love. And this is from my lovely friend Deborah, who is Meanwhile at the Castle podcast, Indigo Chicken Dolls on Instagram, and she gifted me this lovely pattern. And the whole thing about this pattern is so beautiful. Look at this, it's not just a regular pattern, the whole thing is just gorgeous. And I'm knitting this up. This is in my little pod. I love these pods. This is from Gaynor at Kikub on Instagram, and I just love these. Make some more, Gaynor, I need some more. Yeah, this is my Anne of Green Gables. No, it's not. It's Anne with an E yarn. It's Donegal Nep, which is lovely. It's lovely and quite light. And even though it's a cowl and we've got lovely sunny weather here now, this is perfect for an evening. If you, we live down by the, not far from the river, and of an evening we'll go for a drink and it gets quite cold. This is just perfect to put on. And I'm loving it. I've seen quite a few people do this before, and it's beautiful. I don't know if you can see the pattern on it. It's lovely. And she has very kindly, Deborah has very kindly offered a pattern to people who are watching my podcast, which is really lovely. This is the first for me. So I was thinking about a question, and I think you have to go with me here, but the castle, and they're queens of their castle, and this is in my and within a yarn, which makes me think of childhood all the time. So I thought, if you'd like to enter the giveaway, if you'd like to leave a comment below saying what's your magical thing from childhood that you remember, your favourite book or film or programme. Mine is definitely Anne of Green Gables, which I actually love, and I've got a book actually that I'll show you later, a vintage book of that. Little House on the Prairie, The Waltons, obviously. Books, Secret Garden, which actually Emily, Deborah's sister, who's City Knits on Instagram, and she does amazing yarns that are all based on literature, and Secret Garden was one that she did. It was a read along actually. That was another favourite of mine. So not really anything to do with knitting, but I think that would be nice. So if you'd like to leave a comment below, if you'd like to win this lovely pattern, and I will announce the winner on my next podcast, which I will try and do in 2 or 3 weeks rather than leaving it as long as I do, because I have to back up the courage every time to do it. But that's really lovely. And the other nice thing about this is it's a single skein. So I think all of us have got so many skeins that you can't resist the yarn, but you don't actually know what to do with it. This is perfect. So that's that. Couple of things. I want to do some more socks. I'm in a sock mood at the moment. I don't think I can. I've got a couple of things that I said last time I wanted to do, which were like tabards, which I still haven't got the yarn for, but I'm not feeling that at the moment. So I'm going to do another pair of socks, which I actually think I'm going to do this is another one of my own yarns, but this is Longbourn. So this is one of the Pride and Prejudice yarns. And this is on a stellina base, which is lovely. Actually, no, that would make a nice shawl, wouldn't it? I might do a small shawl with that, but I think I'd like to do something nice and light, because the socks are dark. The other one's quite dark, so this is my next thing. So it might be socks, it might be a shawl, not quite sure. That's my next thing. And the other thing that I want to cast on, don't know what, will be with some bluebell yarn from Kelly. That's from Lay Family Yarns, but I'll show you that later. That's gorgeous yarn. So that's all my knitting. Next, I'll show you some crochet. So sorry, there wasn't very much knitting, not a whole lot of crochet either, but there will be next time. So this is moving on to crochet now. So this is in another little bag of mine, and this is my granny stripe anklet, which I'm very much enjoying. So this, as I said last time, was actually inspired by so many others that I saw on Instagram and on people's podcasts, and it's just a simple blanket that I'm loving it. So so that's where I got to last time. This is my So Sweet Violet alpaca, and last time I was on, I was saying I didn't like this dark colour, and Deborah from Meanwhile at Castle said to me, actually that she really liked it. She thought it made it pop, and I thought afterwards, she's right. So I put some more little dark bits in because it does make it pop, and she's right. Very wise, Deborah, very wise. So these are a whole mixture of yarns. I won't go through the whole thing, but excitingly, these are what I have to go in there next. So these are a gift from my lovely friend Kelly, who's Lay Family Yarns, and just look at these colours. She's absolutely a master at these muted shade. Oh, just beautiful. All of these. So next time that should definitely have grown, and I think they will go in there really beautifully. So thank you, Kelly. Really, really love those. And yeah, I'll get back to my crochet. I used to do a lot of crochet. This is something I made a little while ago actually, which I haven't finished. So I said before that when I used to make things before, when I was younger, I used to finish them and wear them straight away or put them up straight away. And I'm completely the opposite now. I will make something and then I'll spend an age finding the right buttons or the right, in this case, beads, because I want to put some beads on the end of this. Anyway, this is some crochet bunting that I did. Just a very simple bunting using leftover, this is double knit, just left over from a scrappy blanket that I did, and then I just sewed a little heart on that one just to make it a little bit different, but I haven't got it with me, but I want to hang some little beads on this, and I've just put an extra bit on the end to tie it. Ooh, might put this up tomorrow, royal wedding tomorrow. Yeah, that's nice. That one, and what that was all about. Moving on to, this is actually moving on to sewing a bit now really, but this is more bunting. This actually says on it, bliss. This was in our old house. We had lots of beams, and it was a little reading corner that I had. That was my bliss corner. I love bunting, don't you? I think bunting is, I've got some up in my kitchen now. I just think it's so cheery. I love it. So that is a very neat segue into my sewing section. Found my bead. That's the bead. That's the bead I was talking about that I wanted to put. I don't know if you can see this. That's the bead. Where I used to live I used to live in a village just outside Tetbury in the Cotswolds, and there was a shop there called Artique. I don't know if anyone's ever been there that's watching this, but they used to, the guy that owned it used to go out to India, many other countries, I don't know which countries, used to go to a huge amount of countries and bring back, it was all fair trade, and used to bring back beautiful fabrics and trims and beads. This is one of those. So I've got a few of these, and I hoard things like this. I have them, and I think, and my husband always says to me, what are you going to do with that? And I said, well, I don't know. That's not the point. You have to have it. That's what I'm going to use it for. So I've got enough actually to put on the bottom of all of those. So I'll show you that being as I found it. Anyway, moving on to the sewing section. I just wanted to show you the last thing that I have finished. Oh, I've forgotten the pattern. I can't believe I've forgotten the pattern. I will put the pattern on the screen and I will try and insert a picture of it. If I go looking for it now, this will never get done. Anyway, it's polka dot, which is one of my favourite fabrics. I love it. I'm probably really red in the face now because I'm flush doing this, so this probably clashes nicely with my complexion. But it's just a very simple little, and it fits, which is amazing. Simple little blouse, but it was lovely. It was lovely to do. Just put a bit of detail on the sleeve. and I put a bit of lace on the back where it joins on the seam. And I quite like this because this is the first little shape to the back, which is nice, but I quite liked this, is that a placket? I think it is. I quite like that. It's a nice detail, and sorry, I'm making a faff of this, and I haven't chosen the buttons yet. I haven't got a clue what type of buttons, but that was my last week's sewing. And I like that neckline. I always go for things with that kind of neckline. So there's that. And actually, I bought this fabric before. I'm going to talk about quilting in a minute. I'm rambling, I'll show that later. So the next thing that I'm starting to make are some totes, just for me, just for fun. Not quite sure what you're going to be able to see of that. So I made this one quite some time ago. It's just plain on the back, and then inside just a little pocket. But I like the shape of that, so I've cut out a few more to do using just fabrics that I have. I've got so much fabric. Having said that, we've got an IKEA that's opened up really quite close to me here, and they sell bags in there for £2. All right, not with that detail on it, and not handmade, but with a pocket, not lined necessarily, but honestly, £2. It opened up last week. We're all very excited because before, when we went to IKEA, it was our nearest one before that was at Bristol, which is about an hour and 10 up the motorway, up the M5, which is fine. But then you get to IKEA and then you walk around the whole of the top section, which you don't need to do, and you know you don't need to do it, but you have to walk around the top section. Then you go down to the marketplace, where you spend another hour, and then obviously you've got to have a hot dog, or a vegetable hot dog, because I'm a vegetarian. And then by the time we got back home, it was 4.5 hour round trip. Yeah, 4 to 5 hours. So now that we've got one so close, very excited, so we all trooped along. And my husband realised towards the end that I'd spent, in my head, about £5,000 or £6,000. He was agreeing with me. I love this sink. Yeah, I like that sink. That sofa's really lovely. We really could do with a new sofa. Yeah, that's lovely. Suddenly, his excitement waned. Got a little bit less excited knowing how much money I'd spent there. It was quite funny. But yeah, £2 they sell bags of. And another thing about IKEA, this is a little bamble. We bought a couple of chairs from there a few years ago, just there. I think they're called Poang or something. They're quite cheap. Little wooden chairs with a fabric cover. And when we moved here, we lost all of our fixings, and we haven't actually had the need to bring them in. They've been sitting in the garage. And we decided that, yeah, we would have them in. We'd put them in the study. Couldn't find the fixings. Absolutely couldn't find them anywhere. Put them in a safe place. So we went to IKEA, being as it was so close, and said, you know, we'd lost these fixings for 2 chairs. What fixings? The entire fixings. They found us all the fixings, sent us some that they didn't keep in stock, and when we asked how much, they said nothing. Complimentary. How good is that? I was really impressed with that. So we've literally got 2 big bags of fittings. I don't know who else would do that. Moving on. I'm really trying hard not to and all the time. I had to watch back a little bit of my last one to see what I had spoken about, and all I could hear was so I'm trying not to do that. So the next thing, my next little sewing project, is inspired by Caroline, my lovely friend Caroline. It's Caroline Love to Sew on Instagram. and Etsy, and she did a beautiful quilt. She sells Tilda fabrics. Oh, so beautiful and much more fancy than mine. Mine is, actually I will show you that cushion now. She said to me, what pattern are you using? And I said, I'm using a Sherry Make It Up As You Go Along pattern, because this is kind of my limit really. But this actually is a fabric from that blouse, and that's fabric from another blouse. Oh, did I show you that one? Might have shown you that one last week or the week before. That's actually an IKEA fabric. But these are all my favourite fabrics, and this is like a garden cushion. So, don't expect great things because it's going to be squares, but this is my colour palette that I've come out with. I spent one Sunday morning literally surrounded by fabrics. So and they're all different. Some are quite thin cotton, some are furnishing. Don't really think it matters, do you? Anyway, this is for the garden as well. I'm not a kind of quilt on beds kind of person, but it's nice to have if you're sitting on a sofa or out in the garden over the furniture. Bird is just, no, not to you. Pooped on my furniture. Actually, I will tell you that, just pooped on my furniture while I was watching. But that's what this is for. It's just for outside. And then, going back to Deborah and her thing about my blanket, I've got a few pops of colour for it as well. These were actually all from a kit, one of those gorgeous kits that you can't resist, but the rest of it is just fabric I had hanging around. So, and, oh, yes, that was Caroline as well. And I thought this was genius actually. Quilts, the last thing of the quilts where you're sandwiching it all together, what Caroline did was she bought some thick fleece and then did the quilting through onto the fleece. Genius. So I'm going to do that. So all I've got to do once this is all pieced together is buy some thick fleece and then just bind the edges. Thank you, Caroline. So that's that. That's my quilt. I have to do that. I have to have all these things on the go, otherwise I'll show you my fabrics. So I'll quickly show you some fabrics that I bought. Put that down there. So this is for some bags that I'm going to make. And this is a really lovely thick cotton and a bee lining fabric. And I thought I would embroider some bees. This is one I've shown you before, but I thought I would do a small one of that on the bag with that. So that's a bag plan. I love bees. My favourite thing in the garden is lavender. And you can be surrounded by bees out there and you know that they're not going to touch you. Some more fabric I bought. This is for a blouse. Don't think I've shown you this. This is actually cotton lawn. And I got this from my local fabric shop for $3.99. And I said, oh, that looks like cotton lawn. That is cotton lawn. So I thought, right, I'll have a couple of metres of that. So that's going to be a blouse. I might cut this if I've told you this, don't think I have. Great British Sewing Bee, which apparently is coming back next year. Much excitement. When I was in my fabric shop, I saw the sign for it. It's coming back next year. That's amazing. I used to love that programme. Well, anyway, there was a guy caught on it, the last one, I think, called Steve, who got to about 4 shows before the end. And I saw him in there. So I thought, do I go and say anything? And I thought, no, I definitely won't. When I got to the till, the lady said, that's Steve over there from the Great British Sewing Bee. And I went, I know. But we didn't say anything else about that. This, which is a lovely chambray. Look at that. Now, actually, again, I'm probably going to use this on bags, but oh, it's so lovely. Gorgeous. That's lovely. It's a bit too out there, I think, for anything to wear, but beautiful for bags. Lovely and soft. And the last thing, which I picked up from a vintage, well, not the last thing, I've got loads of fabric I bought, but this is from a vintage textile fair that I went to. is this, which is now, I think it's called an obi, I think a Japanese obi. It's like, it's what is wrapped round. It's a men's. And this is vintage, this is from 1920s. Look at that. So that's so lovely. This is a thin, this is much thicker. This is like double thickness. And this is the bit I think that you bring around the front and tie. Back is as lovely as the front. And I said to the lady, she said, what are you going, oh look, there's the end. So that's it, that's the very end tied up. What are you going to use it for? And I said, I thought it would make just a lovely little bag. And then I said, oh no, I can't cut that up. But she said that's just been in storage if you don't use it. So I thought, that'd be lovely. That's gorgeous. So very pleased with that. Obi. I think it's an obi. Oh, and the back. Did I show you that? That's beautiful. The whole thing is just so good. In fact, I might pick that apart. But I can use both parts. That's lovely. Now, continuing with, we've had Limbless Luna. We've had Frankenbear. And now we have, not quite so bad, but dun, dun, dun. So this is my, I haven't named her, have a bit of a thing, issue with the hair. This is actually from the Liberty Book of Simple Sewing. I will try and show you what she should look like. So bear with me a second, I should have bookmarked this. Oh, there we are. Okay. So that's what she should look like. Anyway, everything else went okay actually. The dress was okay. Lined. And this is really lovely. Little bows here. Anyway, I can't get the hair. I just can't get the hair. It's the instructions for the hair are really quite short, as if it's obvious. So if you're an expert on hair, please let me know. I think she will be quite pretty when she's done. But that's my latest soft toy drama. I don't know what it is with me and soft toys. And you might, have you seen the legs that have been hanging on the wall? I don't know. Anyway, this is my childhood teddy bear who oh, it's got a wonky head, just noticed, who is, I've had this bear since I was 3. I came down Christmas morning and he was sitting on the mantelpiece. And he's always been with me. And he sits on my bed normally, and you know when you just look at something every day, you don't notice a change. He is in a bit of a bad way, and I kind of really didn't notice that. So, I'm going to do his nose. I have actually got his stuffing. I'm not going to tell you how old he is, but he's quite old. And I've got all the stuffing for his feet, and I thought I might give him some little Liberty feet and hands. I don't know how you clean him, but just thought I'd share that with you. So if anyone's got a teddy bear restoration expert, you can have it done professionally, but oh my goodness, it's horrendously expensive. Right, on to the next section, which is embroidery. So moving on to embroidery, but actually briefly first cross stitch. I've been watching some lovely podcasts on cross stitch completely gone out of my head what ones they are. Reminded me of, I used to do a lot of cross stitch, which I don't do so much now. I just wanted to share with you something that I started many years ago. I'll show you first of all what it should look like. So these are the instructions. If I tell you that actually this was something that I started for my eldest son, who is grown up and much bigger than me now, and that's what it was supposed to be, which was a little boy laughing with a dog. Mabel Lucy Atwell. I love these illustrations. Ooh, and that looks a bit like my teddy. And I don't know if anyone else does this, and I don't know why, because obviously the colours I had, but that's my progress. And this is really grubby, and you can actually see all the lines and the yellowing and where the hoop's been over the years. But that is as far as I have got so far. I will tell you that is not quite, but nearly 30 years old. So beat that. So if you've got a work in progress that can beat that, tell me about it. Because I don't think you have. And as this is been happening, my husband has been saying, oh, it looks like a helicopter, and it just is, as bits of it have come. I don't know how this ever looked like a helicopter, I don't know. But he actually said to me, oh, what are you looking for, your helicopter? But he obviously thought at some point, don't know, don't get him, that's my husband for you. But anyway, I thought I'd show you that. And that took me so many hours, so I need to finish that. I will finish. Maybe it can go to a grandchild at some point. My oldest son is getting married in September to his lovely fiancée Amy. Just saying. Anyway, moving on to some embroidery, because quite a few people asked to see some more embroidery, so I thought I would show you what I have been doing and what I'm currently working on. Again, I haven't been doing that much recently, but I'm slowly getting back to it all now. So this first one is a little bluebell bag that this was a collaboration with the lovely Kelly, Play Family Yarns, and this is the yarn to go with it. Look at that yarn. The colours in this, the colours that she's got in this are just unbelievable. And I'm hoping, the idea was that it was reflected in this. So that's the bluebell bag that accompanies the yarn, which has been on sale in Kelly's shop. I think Kelly is now going to be selling the yarn in there, and I'm going to be selling this in my shop. I think today they were still in there together, but I think that's what we're going to do. So this is just a little drawstring bag, and inside it has a little pocket. Very good at showing these, got a little pocket inside. But the embroidery is a really simple thing to start with, perhaps just one little flower. It does take a long time because what I've done, this is a stem stitch, and the bluebells I do in individual strands of embroidery thread, simply because I think it gives a more delicate look than using two threads, which gets it done much more quickly, but I don't think it looks as good. So that's a nice thing to start. Maybe not, yeah. But that's my first embroidery that I've been doing. This was actually the prototype. This is what I was going to do, but that took again, this is all individual strands, and that just took so long. So I will make that into a little bag, but actually no, that probably might be much simpler to start. Just draw a simple flower outline and just take the time to fill the centre in with just individual embroidery thread, which, sorry, got some in here. So when you buy embroidery thread, it comes in six different threads, and you only need one for that, and I only ever normally use two unless I want something that's really bold. But that might be something simpler to start, actually, just a really simple flower that you can draw freehand, and it doesn't have to be accurate. You can literally draw a fun made up flower and fill it in just with single stitches. That's one idea. And this, I've got one upstairs and I'm going to put this on it. This is my Flower Power pin badge that I got yesterday. Love this. So this is, I think I mentioned it on the last podcast, it's the Flower Power. I've got it upside down. Got it upside down. It's the Flower Power fund, which is run by lovely Sarah, who is Sherlock_knits on Instagram, and she is raising money for Marie Curie, and it's something that I'm very happy to be involved in. And this is the pin that is being sold. I think it's £2 from each pin goes to Marie Curie. And the lady who does this is Sam Draws Things on Instagram. Very clever lady. She has done all of the artwork, and that's her work. So thank you, Sam. Love that. Just need to find out. Yeah, I think I will put it on that bag. So that's really lovely. Some more embroidery. This is a yellow daisy. It's actually a chamomile, but you know, as I've said before, it's a representation. It doesn't have to be completely accurate. But the reason I'm showing you this one is because when you do something like this, and it's quite big, and actually when I put it onto the bag, I thought, oh, that's going to take ages to fill. And what I've done here, I might have to insert, I don't know how much that's focusing, but what I've done here is I've filled in the outside. I did the outline in chain stitch and filled in chain stitch, which is a much quicker way of doing it than satin stitch, which are lots and lots of straight stitches. Gives a completely different effect. And the center is just French knots. But when you do your French knots, what's a really good idea is to mix the strands. So if you're doing yellows, is to take a single strand from this and then a single strand from another one, and there's not a whole lot of difference in colours there. It might be better to, not anymore with me, but it might be better to go for something perhaps that are 2 shades apart. But if you do a single of this and a single of this, and then all that, so you're doing 1 shade of each and then maybe 2 of the same, then you get that kind of 3-dimensional effect with the French knots, which I quite like. God, it took ages again. I start these things and I think, oh, I've got to keep the cost of these bags down, but they end up taking me forever. This is stem stitch and then just chain and French knots. That's another little bag, this is grey, pale grey linen, and I haven't got any yarn with me, but I would say that probably would take 2 skeins. That's in my shop at the moment. And this one, which I've been working on, which I actually haven't finished yet. I haven't done the ribbon and tabs for this one. But this is on, this is a much thicker, so this is quite thin, this linen. You can actually see through that, the same as you could the pale green one. This is much thicker. This is a Morris & Co. linen, which is super expensive actually, but it's lovely. It's different to embroider on again because because it's a bigger weave, it actually can push your stitches a little bit more, distort your stitches. I don't know if that's focusing. I decided to do the cow parsley this time just in the 2 colours, and again, yes, cow parsley would have a green stem, but I think that looks kind of nice. This is cotton lawn again, and this bag actually comes with a little mini which matches. And inspiration, I actually, looking at this fabric, no, this is not Liberty, but this is cotton lawn. I actually think with these colours, this is how I'm thinking you could get your inspiration. If you pick out the colours from that, which I happen to have these, that gives you, I think I might use that for another one. So when you're buying your threads, if you're using your, as I was just saying with the other bag, where you're using different shades, it's a good idea to perhaps jump 2 shades. You don't have to buy, these are DMC threads, these are about, or Anchor, these are about £1 to £1.30 each. Depending on whether you're using single strand or double, they go quite a long way. But you can buy cheaper threads. They're fine. They're not always colour fast, is the only thing. But if you're doing something, if you've found some old threads and it's for a piece of wall art, something that's not going to be washed, that's fine. And also, I'll show you in a second. You don't have to use embroidery thread. I think I've said this before. You can use cotton. You can use the thicker wools. You can use all sorts. Just have a go. If you're starting out in embroidery, so many people have said they've started embroidery, which makes me so happy. Don't think, oh, I haven't got the right things. I haven't got the right threads. Doesn't matter. Just do what you've got and have a go, and it will be lovely. So the next thing I just wanted to show you, this is something that's not actually going that well. So this is another thing that I use to keep my fabric out the way, because otherwise it constantly gets caught, which I'm sure there's much more sophisticated ways of doing it, but that's what I do. So this is a nuthatch. So as I said in the last video, we used to have lots of these. We used to have lots of birds, and we had this in our garden. And it looks a bit like a bandit at the moment, actually. But I use, again, so this is one of my little vintage books. Obviously, you can look these up on, you can Google nuthatch and get some amazing images. But as I said before, when you're trying to choose the shades, you have to bear with me a second. I need to go and get them. Sorry. It's much easier if you have something like this to help you with as well. So that's a nuthatch there. In this, what does it say about this book? How old is this one? Doesn't say on this one. Oh, I broke my glasses last week or the week before. Oh my days, I couldn't, blind as a bat. So that's a nuthatch, and that shows you, it helps you with your shading. And this is another lovely one I picked up in my local bookshop, and very professionally, I bookmarked the page. Couldn't see a bird then. So that's a nuthatch up here. So illustrations will often exaggerate shades, And that's really helpful, I think, when you're trying to decide your colours. Now the first one, for example, the first one I showed was a much lighter blue than the other one. So what I decided to do was start this one with a lighter shade, and then I'll thread some darker blue through. And then when I have chosen my colours, this is going to clank, which I have here, that's most of them in there. If you've got a box, any kind of box, Tupperware, anything, or bag to keep them in, just to keep your threads clean, because they can get quite dusty. And I think I've said before, if you've got a needle, this is how I store mine, just on pegs, just because I find that easier. I've done it on card and I just find that a bit of a faff, and these are just really easy, and you just pinch the end on this so it doesn't go anywhere, and you can wrap it round there. If you're using half of if you've got some thread left over, you can just wrap it around the outside as well, and you can keep it's on there for you when you want to reorder. So if you've got some threads, all you need, I've got this old magnifying glass which used to belong to my husband's granddad, because I need it. And embroidery scissors, I've got lots of embroidery scissors, but you're ideally looking for something with a sharper end for taking out your stitches, because this actually I think is too long. So I'm either going to bring the head down or I'm going to cut these out. And that's what you need these for, because you don't want to cut into your fabric or pull the weave on your fabric, because this is quite, so I was saying about this being much thinner than this one. That's much thicker, you couldn't see through that. So the other thing about this is you have to be careful that you don't, if you're sewing something over here, that you don't take your thread across, because you'll be able to see it. So a few people have said that they'd like to know more about embroidery. There's so many tutorials out there of people that are way better than me. I'm happy to do tutorials if anyone would like specific things they'd like me to do. I can't really do it here because of the setup, but let me know if you would like me to, because I'm more than happy to help. And the other one that I'm doing at the moment, on my last one, I showed this book, which, it's a lovely little book, charming little book. And there was an image on here, Peter something. Anyway, that is the image that I wanted to embroider. And so I started this a long while ago actually, but and this is on that linen that I dyed with avocado. Not sure what I'm going to do. I might, I'm not going to fill it all in. I think I'm just going to do the stripe on his waistcoat, which I've drawn on there, in a different colour. And then I'm either going to just leave it as hoop art, or I'm going to cut it and then perhaps put it on the front of a bag. I don't know. I'll keep it for myself. Do you know what? I sell all these things, and some of my projects are kept in old boxes. It's ridiculous. But if you if you want to transfer designs, you can. Most of the things I do, that was a much more intricate one, but most of the things that I just do freehand. I normally sketch them first, and they're not supposed to be an completely authentic representation. And I would use, which I haven't got with me, the friction pens, which I've shown you before. I've got just here. My legs aren't quite long enough for me to jump up elegantly. So this is the friction pen, which again I think I've shown you before, which is what I use. There are issues with it apparently, that it, as I've said before, that it can, so you can mark onto the fabric your design, so you can draw whatever it is you want to do really simply. And with embroidery you can do a really simple flower and make it look amazing, and then all you have to do is touch the eye into it and it goes. It can apparently come back in freezing conditions. No one's ever said to me that they've ever seen any of my lines, because not all, sometimes you might deviate a little bit and not quite cover it. I've never had a problem with that. If I was doing it onto dark fabric, I would transfer using just a chalk, I just use a dressmaker's chalk. And if you're trying to trace something, then what you need to do is put your image up against a window. So put it on the inside of your window with tape. Put your fabric over the top of it and just trace through. So that's a really simple way of doing it. If you don't want to do any of those things, you can buy pre-printed lots and lots of places. This actually came from Regensburg. I was on holiday in Germany, and I had €2. That was €2. And it's really pretty. Not this particular one, obviously, but what I mean is if you go into charity shops, you will find, and although that looks very daunting, show it, Sherry. Although it looks very daunting, you can just do that with a running stitch if you wanted to, or a simple back stitch. That probably is a little bit elaborate. But what I mean is you can buy kits, or you can just do it yourself. And if you don't have the linen, doesn't matter. This is just a bit, this is one I prepared earlier. This is just a bit of denim from an old pair of jeans. And all you need to do is put that in your hoop and you're off. And we've all got jeans that, well, I have, that got holes in. And the other thing about this actually, so when you first put it in, this is actually stretch denim. So this is ideal. Your fabric wouldn't normally be like this. You tighten this to the point where you can't easily move it. And then what you need to do is make sure that you're pulling all the way around regularly. If you pull in one direction too much, you're going to distort your stitches so that when you take it off, it won't be even. So make sure that you pull, tighten, pull some more, and you probably think that's tight enough, but then keep going. It should be. Don't stress your fabric, don't overstretch it, but it should be like a drum. And you're ready to go. And if you don't even have embroidery threads and all you have is normal cotton, doesn't matter. And I did have some wool I thought I brought with me, but I haven't. But you can get crewel wools, you can get thicker embroidery threads, just whatever you find, and you're off. So I think I've rambled on about that enough. But if you do want anything specific, or yeah, you do want some tutorials or something, ask. But I wouldn't presume to do it otherwise. Just before I finish, I just wanted to show you some of the yarns I've dyed up. Love this yarn dyeing now. So this is the Anne with the knee that I showed you earlier. There isn't any of that left in the shop at the moment. There's a little bit of this one, which is pink, because there's a quote in the book, which I can't remember now, about if you have her colour hair, you should never wear pink. I don't agree with that. Somebody messaged me and said, oh, it's a shame. I don't think that. That's a quote from the book. But if she did wear pink, and this is on the Donegal Nep again, which is pretty. Gilmore Girls. Finish Gilmore Girls eventually. So this is Coffee at Luke's, which actually, again, there isn't any of that left in the shop. This is actually Promised to a Friend, this one. But that's Coffee at Luke's. And this one, I think there's one of these left, which is Dragonfly Inn, which is a representation of the sign, the dragonfly. And that's special. And that ending, I won't say anything because people are still watching it, but okay with that. The next, there's a few here that I've, Pride and Prejudice. So the first book I ever read I apologise if I've said this before. I used to go to the local library, and there was a children's section, and I used to read a lot. And I remember the librarian one day said to my mum, "Why don't you let her go into the adult section?" And the first book I ever got out was Pride and Prejudice, a little cloth-bound book, and I was still reading with a, you know, when you put a bookmark all the way down. And I'm rereading Pride and Prejudice at the moment. So this one is Oh Mr. Darcy. And these are on, this is Superwash Marine, no, this is BFL. This is Oh Mr. Darcy. It was the image of him standing there, having just got out of the lake with his breeches. We won't go into that. You all know that scene I'm talking about. This is Getting Ready for the Ball, and was a scene from the ball when they were all standing there in their silks, and the room had the green background as well. That's a sock set, which is again, that's BFL nylon. This is Sisters, which is just a mix of all the different colour dresses that sisters might wear. That's Stellina, as is this, which I've shown you before. This is a Stellina base as well. And this is Longbourn, which is a house where they lived, which if you look at the one in the Colin Firth version, it's this beautiful ochre colour house with just tiny touches of green in here to show the foliage on the outside of the house. So that's Pride and Prejudice. And this is Fleur Delacour. You can do a few Harry Potter yarns. This is Fleur, her eyes and her colours that she wears. And this is the last one, which I do love this. Tempted to keep this one. This is Cat. This is inspired by, this is Breakfast at Tiffany's. That scene in Breakfast at Tiffany's where she is laying there with her eye mask on, and the cat jumps on the bed. So this is the cat, this is the eye mask. So that's Cat. And lastly, a set of minis, which I'm going to put in the shop sometime soon. And that's it, and these are a few lavender bags I've been making. I like to send out a little treat with all of the yarns or bags that I make. So just to finish, because I've waffled on no end, I just wanted to show you some of my books. The question at the beginning, which was, don't forget to enter the giveaway for that lovely pattern, was books from your childhood or films from your childhood. Just tying in with this castle and the Green Gables yarn, this childhood idea. This is a book, this is one of my childhood books. This is, it's a puffing book. I don't even know if they do that anymore. Secret Laughter, and that's a book of poetry, which is lovely. In fact, yeah, that's lovely. I took a poem from there for a bag that I did for a friend, which was lovely. And this is an old copy. This is the dust jacket, which is lovely, but this is the actual book, which is yummy. And that is, I think, this is from 1960s, this one, I think. Yeah, can't see anyway, but that's beautiful. And talking about the Pride and Prejudice book, it was this kind of book. So this is Mill on the Floss, but it was this kind of little book that I first read. I could go on, I've waffled on way too long, I've got loads more things to show you, but I won't, because you're probably a bit fed up with me going on now. So thank you very much for watching. It would be amazing if you did subscribe, if you've enjoyed it, but don't worry if you don't want to, that's fine. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to say was what I've been watching. So I've finished the Gilmore Girls, and Amy, who was Little Tailoress, and she's rebranded, and it's lovely, and it's completely gone out of my head. I'll put it on the screen. It's a brilliant branding, and she recommended This Is Us as well. She recommended lots of things, and This Is Us was one of them. Absolutely, I'm watching that on Amazon Prime at the moment. That is amazing. I was actually thinking, what on earth am I going to do once the Gilmore Girls are finished? That's incredible. Also Morse, because I've been watching Endeavour, and they're showing Morse on ITV Player, which is incredible. And what was the other thing? Can't think. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed it. I apologise if I've been waffling, and thank you. Oh, my one more thing. Mug. I didn't show you. There's nothing in this one at the moment. New mug. Now, tell me. Says bye. Tell me what that is, because I think that's a strawberry, but apparently everyone else seems to think that's a carrot. It's got pips on. Clearly that's a strawberry. I'd like your vote. And it's a royal wedding tomorrow, and it's a bit awkward because my invite hasn't come through, and I'm not sure what to do. Do I just turn up? I know, awkward.